run. We tried to keep those tightly focused on the bank's understanding and being able to manage the risks that they'll run over the longer time periods on climate, and not slide into a broader sort of policy-making role on climate change. And I accept that could be a slippery slope and a moving border. And I just want to say, and I think my colleagues feel the same way on the board, that we're going to guard that border carefully, and we're going to stick to our role and not try to be policymakers the way in many other countries the central bank is out there in the lead with the support of the public doing climate policy. But that's not where we are in the United States, and we're not going to pretend that it is.
I've got some time left, and I'll yield back, but I just want to say, as an auto dealer, I'm looking for the first day of that rate cut. Done with that? So, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Gentleman's time has expired. We'll now go to the gentleman from California, Mr. Vargas, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and again, thank you for holding this hearing. Chairman Powell, a pleasure to see you again. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's always great to see you, because I always think of the old Republicans, the ones who are very noble, did the right thing, didn't play chicken with the economy, very forthright. And so anyway, I appreciate you being here very much. Like some of my colleagues on the other side, I'd say the same thing about some of them, and I appreciate you. So we heard today that the inflation is Biden's fault. So what is the inflation rate in the European Union today?
It's high.
It's high. Is it 10% possibly?
I think if you're talking about headline, I don't have this figure in my head, but it's very, very high from a headline standpoint. Yeah. And they've had core inflation move up too.
Yeah. So are they following Biden's then policies? Is that what caused the inflation? Because it seems to be Biden's fault.
So I think inflation is everywhere, and it must have to do with a common factor, and that common factor has to be the reopening of the economy and the things that were done on COVID. On the other hand, each country has a little bit different case, and I think you have to be careful. We had much more of a demand-oriented issue than they did. Now they have their inflation looks a lot like ours did a year ago.
Right. Yeah, I just had to bring it up because, again, Mr. Sherman brought it up, but it's interesting every time I hear inflation is caused by Biden, I wonder why is it all over the world? I mean, it's not because of the pandemic, of course, or, Europe's at war. I mean, that wouldn't cause it, of course. It'd have to be Biden's policies. That's ridiculous. And I think the voters saw through it last time. So I haven't been here 15 years as my good friend, Mr. Foster. I've only been here 11. But when I first got here, the boogeyman, and I heard it all from my friends on the other side, was Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank was going to be the end of banking. And in fact, some of my colleagues would almost scream how horrible this was. And then we got the bankers up here during a real stress test, which was the pandemic. And we asked them, has it been helpful to have Dodd-Frank? And you know what they said? Do you know what they said?
I don't.
Oh, they said it was helpful. In fact, it kept the banks capitalized. It was fascinating. Now, to be fair to them, they did complain about some of the smaller issues, but not Dodd-Frank in general, the bill. Then it seemed that CFPB, that became the next boogeyman. But they're starting to seem to fade on that, and I think the reason for that is the CFPB has actually helped so many people that now a lot of their own constituents now are getting helped by the CFPB, so all of a sudden there's not quite the energy. So now they're attacking ESG. ESG. And they're saying that you and everybody else is somehow conspiring to make sure they don't buy their oil or their coal. Are you conspiring to do that? Are you conspiring?
I don't believe we're conspiring.
No. Now, I heard it was supposed climate risk. Is there risk in the climate change?
Yes.
There is? Could it affect the bank?
Certainly, in the longer run, yes.
Yeah, of course it can. Do you think insurance companies take this into account?
Yes, actually, I believe they do.
They absolutely do.
Who write